If you've been hanging around social media, you've heard of Clubhouse. So what is Clubhouse? Well, it's a social audio app that has all of the buzz. The FOMO, is it real? Do I need to be on there? Am I missing something? Wait, can I grow my business on there? What's going on? All of those questions are going to be answered today on Idea Collective Live. Andrea Hubbard from Hub and Company, a power user of the platform and a frequent host, is going to come on and give us the Clubhouse 411. Welcome to Idea Collective Live, the official weekly meeting of small business owners everywhere. I'm your host, Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. I'm really glad you're here. We couldn't do this show without our sponsors, of course, Bank 59, Jeff McCarthy on the call. High five to you. Our good friends at Quick Trip, and of course, the Idea Collective for small business owners. Now, this show is interactive by design, and on something as new as Clubhouse, you might have some questions. So we want your questions, your comments, and your sarcastic remarks inside the chat, because that's what makes it fun, right? So let's have a good time. After we're done learning about Clubhouse, we are going to go and have our Quick Trip after party where we do some networking. We meet some people that we might not know that are in the audience, and we make some new connections. So our guest today is the creative force and the founder of Hub and Company, Andrea Hubbard. Andrea, it's great to see you. Welcome to the show. How you been?
I'm doing well, thank you. I loved your intro. It reminded me of the intro. Do you remember the TV show Soap?
No.
You have to watch it, because it was like, will Corinne do this, and will so-and-so do that? And it was funny. I loved it.
Now I know what you're talking about. All right. But before we get on to Clubhouse and all that kind of stuff, let's learn a little bit about you, because if you've not met Andrea yet, you need to know her. So tell us about you and Hub and Company.
Sure. So Hub and Company is a content marketing strategy firm that I founded a couple years ago. That doesn't really matter. But what I do is I help you market your next project with purpose. I help you grow your audience through the use of your personality. And then I help you generate sales with panache. All things content.
I love that, with panache.
Just think of me as your ride or die when it comes to cracking the code on content.
Oh, I like that. Okay, that makes sense. Well, you're creating a lot of content on Clubhouse. You are creating a bunch of shows. You're showing up all the time. So when I was trying to think who can come on and give us what's going on with Clubhouse, your name immediately came to mind. So right now it is the it thing. But if someone has no idea what a Clubhouse is, I'm sure you can explain it better than I did. What is it, and why are so many people talking about it right now?
So I don't know why all my references are in the 80s, but when people ask me about Clubhouse, I always say, do you remember the party line in the 80s when you all dialed into the same number, and whoever was on at the time is who you were talking to for however long you were on? Earl remembers. Yeah, so I kind of liken Clubhouse to the party lines of the 80s. Now, for those of you who are maybe a little bit younger than that reference, I have another reference for you, and you can, okay, Claire, this one might sit well with you. You can think about it as a conference experience on your phone, like an audio-only conference experience. So you're going to a conference and you go into all of these various breakout rooms or keynote discussion rooms or the cocktail party after the day of sessions. And no matter where you are, you're going to have really good conversation about a specific topic or of something of interest to you if you're at the after party from the cocktail session, for instance.
So let's drill down one piece then. Okay, there's a lot of conversations. How is it organized? How do you find what's going on? Are there a few conversations, lots of conversations? Like, what happens when you log in?
So when you log in, you see all the conversations. Well, you see a lot of conversations. So the app is really dependent. You are curating your experience on Clubhouse, and I think that that's really important to remember. And you curate your experience in a couple of different ways. You do it by the interests that you select. Either when you join the app or as time goes on and you keep adding to it. You do it by the people that you follow, and you do it by the rooms that you tend to frequent well, the rooms that you tend to frequent. All of that is really training the algorithm to present content, and in this form, content being conversation to you. So taking that conference analogy a little bit further, they literally call what you would consider your home feed your hallway. And they're saying these are the conversations that are happening, again, based on all of that criteria that we think that you have the most interest in attending, in participating in. And that's how you decide where you want to go and how you're going to spend your time and who you want to engage with from a first, from a initial perspective of when you join, when you open your app.
Okay, so we've got an app with a bunch of conversations that learns, and you use the algorithm. It kind of feeds you some things to participate in. A question that a lot of people have is, how come not everybody can get it? Who can get it, and how do you get it? Because it's not open to all, right?
It is not open to all. And if we want to talk about this in marketing terms, they are employing a couple of different tactics, one of them being exclusivity. So you have to be invited to the app. You still have to be invited to the app, although invitations are a little bit more open than they were before, but it's still invitation only. They're also employing the tactic of a little bit of scarcity, because if you don't have the right technology, in this case, if you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, you miss the opportunity, right? So it's a little scary. It's scarce for you. You can't join because you don't have the right technology to join. And there's a little bit of reciprocity going on as well, because who you invite, the person who invites you to join the app, is also the person who is sort of attached to you for life. You have to be really careful who you are inviting onto the app, because your name becomes attached to them. But that's also the reciprocity, is that in turn, you're going to do the same for somebody else. And for the person who invited you onto the app, you're going to reciprocate their kindness by, of course, being a good representative of them while you're on the app. So there's a couple of different things in play with even getting onto the app.
So you need an invite to get on, and you need an iPhone to get on, because it's not out on Android. Is it going to be coming out on Android anytime soon?
It is. They have said recently a couple different times that they've gotten their own Android phones for testing, which cracks me up. They had to buy their own Android so they could test the platform. They've looked at the app structure, the what's the technical term for it? The way the app works. So they're testing it. They found some bugs, but they still think that in May, they'll be able to start rolling out to Android users, but they are going to do it in waves.
Okay. So this is meant to be an interactive discussion. If you have a question about Clubhouse and what the heck is going on there, or how to get more out of it if you're on it, Andrea knows. Like, trust me, she knows. So put it in the chat and we'll work it into the conversation. So we've gotten through what the heck it is, what's going on there, how do you get on it? But if you haven't been on there before, what are some of the rooms that are on there? And as a business owner, are there topics that we want to hear being talked about?
Yes, there are topics that you want to hear as a business owner, as an individual, right? Like, literally, I bet you could name a topic right now and say, is this on there? And you would get a yes. There are all kinds of conversation is happening on Clubhouse. From a business perspective, there's a few different types of rooms that are being held, right? So there are the rooms that really are, again, going back to the analogy of a conference, that are meant to be keynote type rooms, where there's one, maybe two people up on the stage. And I don't know if you want to go into the structure of the rooms as well, Pat, but for this, as I'm explaining this right now, the stage is where you actually are able to engage in conversation. People can hear you. So there's one or two people up on the stage talking, and it's meant to be more of a keynote, and they're teaching, they're training, they're doing whatever it is that they're doing. You're in the audience and you're consuming. Then there are types of rooms, again, business topic related, that are more of a panel discussion. Anything from how do I better utilize Clubhouse? How do I get started on Clubhouse? How do I integrate Clubhouse with my other social media activities? How do I market my business? How do I grow myself? All of those conversations are happening on Clubhouse, and sometimes they're in a panel discussion format where there's a few people on stage talking, and then they bring other people up and they directly answer questions. And then the third type of room is more of an on-the-spot hot seat coaching type room, where again, it's based on a topic, you have a question, and you get some immediate coaching on the spot. Then there are rooms based on topics and all of these other things too.
So there's business, but then there's so much that's not business. I mean, every topic
Exactly.
that you can imagine lifestyle wise, and it's not just the US. These conversations are happening around the clock because it's a
Globally.
worldwide app.
Exactly. There have been times when rooms, literally the same room, has been going for 24, 36 hours at a time. You know, yeah, there's rooms that have been fundraising rooms. So there was a lot of room. There were a lot of rooms for fundraising for Houston. There's rooms that are fundraising advocacy rooms, right? So there's a lot of rooms talking about, how do we stop, hate crimes or hate speech? How do, like, big thought rooms, I guess is the best way to say that.
Sure.
Thought leadership type room. Truly, any fun rooms, right? Let's talk about music. There's a whole room that talks about the 80s, the hits from 1982. You better believe I was in that room.
For sure. Well, let's answer a few more basic questions about the structure because we have a bunch of great questions in the chat from people wanting to learn how to use it better. Now, you touched on it briefly, but inside this room, there's no video, there's no chat, and there are two distinct places. Can you just talk about the structure of the room and how it works real quick?
Sure, there's three distinct places. Actually, there's the stage. Again, that's when you are actually able to talk, right? So your mic is, you can mute and unmute yourself and be part of the conversation. Then the next section is the middle section, which is followed by the speakers. And I'll come back to that in a second. And then the third space is the audience, or also called others in the room. The difference between followed by the speakers and others in the room is the followed by the speakers is literally what it says. Anybody who is on the stage at that time and they follow you as somebody who's in the room, you get moved up into that second space. And that second space is important. So if you're not on stage, right, you're not getting all of the attention, because people on stage get all of the attention. But if you're in that second space, you do get a shot of credibility, I guess, or interest or visibility, because if I'm in this room and I'm really digging what people on stage are saying and they follow you, well, I'm going to be curious and find out who you are and look at your profile and maybe follow you and start to engage in conversation with you. So that space is just as important. Well, not just, but it's an important space to be. And then of course the audience is everybody else in the room who just doesn't have an attachment to somebody on the stage.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And to go from the audience to the stage, you can be brought up on stage. How does that happen?
Yeah, there's two ways that you can be brought up on stage. You can click a button and raise your hand. And that would be the equivalent of somebody, again, at the conference coming and bringing the mic to you and you asking your question. Or if somebody who's on stage and they've been made a moderator, so there's a distinction again between who's on the stage. You're either a moderator or you are a speaker. And so somebody who's a moderator could see that you're in the stage, know that you have something to contribute to the conversation, and invite you to join the conversation.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So let's turn our attention to some of the questions that we've been asked, because that's what this is about, an interactive discussion to learn from Andrea Hubbard from Hub and Company. She's really ahead of all of us on Clubhouse right now. If you're thinking about using the app, she has the answers. So Ted wants to know, okay, I signed up. How do I get my own room? Like, do I need permission or can I just start a room? How do I get my own room to have a conversation?
No permission needed. That's the good news. It's, you gotta you gotta pull teeth, like you gotta scrape and scrimp and fight to get onto the app. But then once you're on the app, the floor is yours, literally. So to start a room, there's a section, and you would click on that section, and you could do it a couple different ways. You could schedule the room, which is an indication to anybody who follows you that you plan to have a certain conversation on a certain date and time, right?
Mhm.
So you've scheduled it. You could also, in the moment, start a room, and you just decide, right now that you want to talk about, the Idea Collective. So you start a room. And again, anybody who follows you will get notified that you've just started this room and can join that conversation. You can also have private rooms. So if you, for instance, run a mastermind, and you want to have your mastermind discussions on Clubhouse, you could have everybody who's part of that mastermind be on Clubhouse. You could start a private room, and only the people in your mastermind would be part of the conversation. You could do that also with friends, whomever you want to have a private conversation with. And then the fourth way to start a room is there's an option to start a social room. And what that means is it's a little bit counterintuitive. It's not anybody that you follow, but it's anybody who follows you will get notified that you've started this room and can join that conversation. So there's 4 different ways to start a room.
That's a lot. So all of these moving parts, have you found it difficult to learn how to use the app, or you just kind of get into the flow and you pick it up pretty quickly?
Well, you just start, right? You're not going to break anything. So you just start and you tinker around with things, but they're really good at having onboarding sessions. So on Wednesdays, they have what they call orientation session. And then, so they walk you through the app, all the function and feature of the app from the Clubhouse owners. They're the ones that do that. But then other people are having rooms every single day, helping people learn how to use the app. And then on Sunday mornings, they have a town hall every week. And that's when they talk about, what product, what's shipped, what's coming up, answer questions, and help you learn the app more from a, not a feature function perspective, but more from a strategy use case type perspective.
Yeah. And if you're tuning in and you've never been a part of Clubhouse, you've never even logged on, we may go into a little nooks and crannies here. So give us a little patience if you don't mind. But we wanted to explain how it worked in case you had never been there. Now we have some questions from people that are either interested in it or have been on it. So we might get a little wonky right now, but give us just a minute. We'll get back to the bigger picture discussion in just a second. Sheila's got a great question. How can I save rooms so I can visit them again? Like, hey, what they talked about was great. I want to come back next time they have this discussion. How would you do that?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I really wish I had a better answer for you, Sheila, but you can't.
Hmm.
Once the room is done, the room is done. What you can do, however, is you can follow the people who are hosting the rooms, the moderators of the room. And so, hopefully they will open that type of room again on that topic, and you can join that. Or it could have been a room that was hosted under a club, which again, this is to Pat's point, kind of going into how the sausage is made here, but sometimes rooms are hosted under a club. And really the best way to think about that is a club is, the container, the big container where lots of conversations happen, and the conversations are the rooms. And if that room happened to have been hosted under a club, you could follow the club, and they'll have more rooms like that within the club.
So, for example, there's an Idea Collective club on Clubhouse. Under the Idea Collective, I host my Pat Miller show. Andrea and I host a show on Wednesday night. Lisa and Ariel are hosting shows, and other Idea Collective members are welcome to start their own shows inside our club as well. So you can follow the club for small business conversation. And then there are individual shows inside that club if you're a member and you wish to follow that. A
Thank you.
question. A question from Lisa that I think is really good. Titles matter. So let's say we start a room. Do you use emojis? What's the emerging strategy behind naming a room and to make that room name most effective?
Yes, that is a really good question. Keywords matter on Clubhouse. Keywords are an important part of your profile. They are an important part of the description for your club if you happen to start a club, and they are an important for room titles. Um, for discoverability, that's why they are important on your profile and your club description. For your room titles, although they don't have discoverability now, so you can't search and find a room, that is coming, but it's better to be trained to think about the way you title your rooms from a keyword perspective so that you're that much further ahead when discoverability, when people are able to find your room based on those keywords, number one. And number two, if you're using keywords that you think that your audience is going to relate to, just like any other keyword or SEO research that you've done for your blog post or anything, ads or whatever, that's just going to make it easier for people to understand that you're holding the conversation that they want to be a part, that you're holding a conversation that they want to be a part of, because they understand from the keywords that you're using what you're talking about.
Independent of hosting a room, you do get a chance to describe who you are and what you do inside your bio. How do we write a good bio? Are there prevailing best practices on that?
So yes. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't get to the emoji part. And emojis are searchable on Clubhouse.
Hmm.
And so if you are putting emoji in your room title, I would recommend looking at under interests. So when you get into the search feature and you look at, you scroll down a little bit and you'll see interest, look at the emoji that are attached to the various interests and use those in your room titles and in your bio because they are, and in your club description because they're searchable. So if you use the apple, people are going to know, I think Apple's tied to, for some reason, I think it's tied to arts. It might be education. I don't know. But if they're looking for that topic and you have the apple, they're searching the apple, you're going to come up. So I just wanted to mention that too. But remember, it's 2 characters.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your bio, yeah, use emoji in your bio for searchability for one, but also to kind of break up text, right? Think about it. Think about it all the way from the beginning, from the handle that you pick. So I use the same handle that I use on all of my social media. However, if you have a industry or a topic and you decide, like marketing, let's say you're about marketing, it's already taken, but you could have chosen marketing as your handle. And anytime anybody is searching for marketing, guess what? You're going to be one of the first ones that comes up because your handle is marketing. So think about it from that perspective. Is there something that people are going to be searching for, that you want to be known for, that you want that to be your handle? So when people are searching for it, you come up. The next thing is that when you're in a room with somebody and they click on your photo, they're going to see the first 80 characters of your bio. So we want those to be the strongest. You want your first 80 characters to be the strongest part of your bio, because you want to entice them to read the whole bio. So if you can't do a complete sentence, then, starting with character 1 to as far as you can get, make those your strongest. If you're going to use emoji in that first 80 characters, I do not recommend that you put them at the beginning. I recommend that you put them either after the first word or, somewhere else, towards the end of that 80 characters, because number one, they take up 2 characters, and number 2, it's a little visually odd to start with an emoji. It doesn't make sense. And then the rest of your bio, you want to use that space, and you do get a lot of space to talk about, if you're on for business, right? You want to talk about the business, what you do, who you serve, what kinds of conversations are you interested in having, all of those types of things to help paint a well-rounded picture of who you are. And I also recommend that you talk about, from a well-rounded perspective, other parts of who you are, right? You're not just a business person. So share some of that other stuff, share some of those other things about it. And then at the end of my bio, so this is how I know if somebody read to the end, I have like a really fun statement, a really fun ask me about type statement. So
Very
I'm not
good.
going to tell you what it is because you got to read it.
Got to read my bio. See, look at you, your tease. That's amazing. If you're joining us just now, it's a Clubhouse 411 episode. We're talking with Andrea Hubbard from Hub and Company, who's a power user on Clubhouse. And if you're thinking about using the app, today's conversation is for you. If you have questions, put them inside the chat and we'll work them into the conversation. I'm, of course, your host, Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. Is there
I want
something
to
you
say one
wanted to
more.
add? Yeah,
I
go
want
ahead.
to say one more thing about bios. I forgot to mention. There are no hyperlinks anywhere, and except for two, honestly. So if you have a freebie that you want to share, some sort of an opt-in, still share it, but really make sure that the link that you use is easy for somebody to remember to type in. And excuse me. And the only two clickable links are a connection to your Instagram or your Twitter. So definitely set one up or both. I apologize.
No worries. No worries. Grab it. Grab a drink there. No problem on that. We got some questions that are pouring in. We'll get to you in just a second when you're ready.
The reason that you want to do that is because people can't connect with you otherwise. You can't,
Right.
there's no in-app conversation.
Right. And a lot of the conversation, really the only conversation that's happening profile to profile, is happening when people click on your Instagram or your Twitter, which are the two social accounts right now that are linked to your profile. So when you go into a Clubhouse user, you can scroll down to the bottom and single click directly to their Twitter or their Instagram. And if you're in the app, you'll hear people say, "Oh, DM me," which is slang for go to the social app that's connected at the bottom of my profile and send me a message, and we can start the conversation that way. All right, this is the question that I think everyone really wants to know. Like, we don't need another social media platform. There's plenty of stuff out there. So obviously there must be a reason to be on there. So is it helping your brand? Is it helping your business? Is anything good coming from this?
Yes. So for me, it's been good from brand awareness perspective, visibility, which is my intent. So you have to have a strategy, just like you do with anything else that you are doing to market yourself or your business. So once you understand why you want to be on Clubhouse, that will honestly help you figure out what rooms to be in, how to structure your bio, who to network with, all of the things, how much time you're going to spend on it, that kind of thing. So for me, it's about brand awareness. I just want to have and be a part of conversations that are going to help people understand what I do as a content marketing strategist, but also various principles and strategies as it relates to content marketing, and then move them off of the platform, to Pat's point, to engage in conversation. So it's also, I guess, a little bit of a pre-qualifier as well. There are people though, pardon me?
No, go ahead.
There are people though whose strategy is to quote unquote monetize Clubhouse, whether that be to literally get money through being on Clubhouse through the tipping feature, or to get business, to make business on Clubhouse. And they're doing it left, right, all day, every day, or through brand sponsorships and partnerships. So it depends on what your specific strategy is as it relates to your business.
So that's something new that was just introduced, the tipping feature inside Clubhouse. Are you seeing people having success with that or claiming to have success with generating revenue off of their rooms?
Yes. Yes. People are talking about how, it's a philosophical question as to whether or not you're going to allow people to give you money. So everybody can give money. We all have that functionality. Not everybody can receive money. They're rolling that out in waves again. And it's really a philosophical question as to whether or not you want to allow people to tip you. And I've thought about it, and I've thought about different reasons why you might want to do that. I choose not to do it. There are people who are doing it, and they're doing it either passively or actively. So they're doing it passively by just having it there. And if somebody is so inclined to want to tip, they're going to go and look for it. There's some people who are doing it actively, which they are literally asking people to give them money. I know, Claire, that's kind of the philosophical thing, but they're doing it in ways, whether it's fundraising, whether it's performance-based, right? If you are a musician, or if you are part of a production that's happening on Clubhouse, because they have had productions like Broadway level productions on Clubhouse, right? Or if you're doing coaching and you might take somebody in a private room and do a 15-minute coaching session and ask. So,
okay. So another question that's coming in, Sheila has a good one. Are the club names and handle names exclusive? And if so, would you recommend someone log on to Clubhouse and at least reserve their club and handle while they still can?
Handles are definitely exclusive. There can only be one, right? Clubs are going to be exclusive. They currently are not, because I don't think that they thought about people wanting to either, coincidentally have the same name for a club, or there have been instances where people are adopting someone else's popular club name for their own. And so they are going to make it so you can't have the same name. You can have a variation on a name, though, like you can use an underscore, or you can use a different character to make it different. But right now, two people could coincidentally have, or maybe not so coincident, two people could have the same name at this point.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Final call for questions. If you have questions, put it into the chat. We'd love to see anything else that you have that you want Andrea to answer. And I also want to open the floor for anyone that is using Clubhouse. I'd love to get their feedback on what has their experience been, because it's been really great for some people, and some people it's been, not so great. So if you'd like to join the conversation, let us know in the chat, and we'll bring you in, because I'd love to get your feedback on what's going on. And Andrea, I'll give you a second to grab a drink of water here real quick. There's a question that came into me. I'm doing the Pat Miller Show on Clubhouse. How am I recording the Pat Miller Show? Well, the way that I'm doing it is I'm using extra equipment. Right now, at least that I've seen, Andrea, there's not a recording feature on Clubhouse inside the app as of yet, but I'm using some external software. So we'll pull it over here to, let's see this right here. This is my control board. And inside my control board, I've got a button here to click and record anything that goes through the control board. So I'm not sure if Clubhouse would be real happy with me doing that, but I do disclose to the people that come into the room, hey, I'm recording. And it's also inside the name of the club, the room as well, that, hey, I'm recording. So that's how I'm doing it. And if anyone's interested in learning about my favorite piece of equipment in the world, the Rodecaster Pro, I'd be happy to tell you about that.
It's okay to record. That doesn't go against their terms, but you have to disclose it. And ideally, they want it to be verbal consent. So every single person who comes up on stage and speaks has to consent to being recorded.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's just talk about how you're using it then, right? You're all over it. And what have your results been? Are you still thinking it's great and you're going to keep on investing in it? Are you still testing it? What is your use case after being so deeply involved with the Clubhouse experience early on?
So I'm still testing it out. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. I have rooms that I either host or co-host every day. And I'm trying to make them consistent, right? Because I at first started and I was kind of random. And now I know that, Monday's a recap and Tuesday, the rooms, right? They're consistent. Some of my rooms are training related, such as I have a PR room on Thursday where I'm really helping people understand public relations and how to incorporate it into their marketing strategies. I have a room on Friday afternoons that goes seemingly forever, but it's a happy hour room. So So I may or may not have a couple of cocktails during that room and kind of get a little looser. JB's been on some happy hours with me, so she knows. Yeah. So to answer your question, I do a little bit of both. I do a little bit of open conversation. I do a little bit of training, and then I just do some fun.
Okay. We've got a few users in the room, so I want to bring them on stage real quick, and then we'll come back to you for final thoughts, Andrea. Ariel, you're using Clubhouse. What has your experience been like, and would you recommend it to other small business owners?
I would. I am not generally the early adopter type. I'm generally a little bit more of a, let me wait this out, see how it goes, let others test it. But I was invited by a client, so I jumped in, and it's been really awesome, the opportunities it's created. And honestly, my recommendation, if you're hesitant, is jump in now. You don't have to engage more than you want to. But what I found is I was able to have Clubhouse notify me when my contacts joined. And then when you get the notification they joined, I was able to open up a room and welcome them in. And for me, I talk to people I haven't talked to in 4 years because they're still contacts on my phone, but then they jumped on Clubhouse. I connect with them and then, hey, what's been going on with your life and your business in the past 4 years? One of my friends is a successful realtor down in Texas now, connected with one of the people I used to train, and he's a well-established account executive and found out he had a second baby. So for me personally, it's been really cool, which I did not expect when I joined for that reason. And then professionally, it's been really awesome as well. Connected with a few people and jumped into a room. Somebody commented, they were talking about toxic positivity. And I thought, oh, I have something to say about that. So I jumped up and raised my hand to speak. And then the person said, I really liked your energy and what you had to say. I'd love to connect. And then he became my client. So it's been awesome that way. Yeah. Top client. And now I'm hosting a room with Lisa, which was awesome because if you guys don't know Lisa Rabel, she's pretty amazing. And I said, I want to connect with you and collaborate with you. I don't know how or why, but I do. And then Clubhouse became that opportunity. And I said, you want to host a Clubhouse together? And now we do marketing and mindset every other Tuesday. It's been really, really fun. So it's been incredible. And I'm glad that I was an early adopter.
And look at that. See, now you're an early adopter. You should just early adopt everything. You learned a lesson. Be an early adopter and good things happen.
There we go.
Right?
Lose skepticism.
Well, thanks for sharing, Ariel. Ted, you've been doing a lot of audio stuff lately. When I saw this come out, I thought, okay, is Ted going to jump in? What has your experience been like?
Yeah, I've been on, I'd say about 2 months, every Monday at 2:00. Just got off one, and it's been very beneficial. I think what the biggest thing is for I've noticed is people assume that I'm an expert now. And it makes me very easy. I've had a lot of clients going to, "Ma, you're on Clubhouse. Wow, you're on everything," and they think that I'm all a guru on a lot of the technology and all that kind of stuff. So I think it helps you from that standpoint. And I agree with Ariel that it really is a neat platform to talk to people and keep it open. So I've really enjoyed it. It's been very nice. Susie Moons and Brad set me all up for it. So thank you to them for doing that.
Wonderful. Awesome. And they're assuming you're the expert. Has that helped you maybe land some podcast guests or potential collaborators? I mean, what has that been like?
Yeah, matter of fact, I was talking to somebody out of Florida this morning, Orlando, because they heard on the Clubhouse and stuff like that. We'll see where that goes, and more about the podcasting also on that. But that's kind of neat to have that kind of exposure to other people all over. So I definitely wouldn't have it just sitting here in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'll tell you that.
And that's a very good point. It does open your world and you meet people from all over the place. Let's get one more piece of feedback. Thank you, Ted. I appreciate it. Dennis, if you've got a minute to join us, I saw that you commented in the chat. You've been playing with it a little bit. Have you hosted any rooms or are you just listening in as of right now?
No, I'm just a voyeur listening in.
Got it. And what are you getting from the conversation? Are there credible, qualified people that you're willing to listen and learn to on the app?
I think so. I mean, like we do with most social media explorations, we see whether or not we can fit this into our overall strategy, whether it's for the CRM or the family product and the security issues. But this is really a neat concept. The whole idea of being invited, the people that you have had or listened to conversations with, just incredible. So it's early on. I mean, it's almost like, what if Facebook wasn't typed, right? What if it was all audio and conversations were really great. So it does take you to a level of interaction on the social network that you don't necessarily get And I'm not certain we're going to get it, even if Facebook opens up and does what they're going to do, in a way that this invites intimacy. And I think some of you are shaking your head and agree with that. And I think that's what we're looking for, right? We've had too much noise on the internet, too much noise in our social media, too much noise out there. Let's turn down the noise and turn up the volume on the things that really matter. And I think Clubhouse is an entry into that probably has great blue ocean future.
Yeah, its simplicity enhances that intimacy because there's not a chat to distract you or other things. So that's a really, really good point. All right, well, Andrea, let's go back to you. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. So Andrea, let's go back to you for final thoughts. So what do you think? We should be jumping on it. Any final thoughts about Clubhouse that someone should know if they're thinking about playing in this space?
I completely agree that there's this intimate nature about audio only, and it's clearly not going anywhere with all of these other entities announcing that they are working on an audio only platform. So at this point, I really think it's a race to who's going to have the best set of features as it relates to audio only, and then the communication of the rooms and clubs around it. So I would say that Clubhouse is still in beta, which I constantly have to remind myself too, it's still in beta. And so there's big vision, big plans for where they want to take it. Every week they share more and more about that visionary roadmap, not just the technical roadmap. And if you are somebody who really enjoys speaking, right? You enjoy conversing, having conversation, building that intimacy, having relationships, building relationships with people, then I would say, yes, I would try Clubhouse out. I would try it now while it is still in beta, while you still can, kick the tires and see what's going to happen and be a part of shaping it, because they do listen to the community. And you can help shape the experience for not only yourself, but for other people. That's one thing. The second thing is, as you are going into rooms, there's a time to listen, right? There's a time to consume content. And hopefully when we're in those rooms and we're consuming that content, that we are executing on it, right? We're implementing it afterward. But there's also a time to speak. And I think a lot of people prevent themselves from getting up on the stage and speaking, whether it's asking a question or contributing to the conversation. And the richness of the experience happens when we have more voices in the conversation. So I would say, try it out, get into rooms of interest to you, either that you want to learn from or that you want to contribute, and get up on stage and start sharing your knowledge and expertise. And whatever your strategy is as it relates to your business, whether it's business development, whether it's relationship building, whatever it is, those two things aren't going to change, right? Consuming content that you execute on and sharing your knowledge and experience. It's either way, whatever the strategy, you're going to need to do those things.
And it's fun. All of those things, and it's fun. It's all of those things and fun. This has been a great conversation, and by all the questions inside the chat and how long we had the chance to talk about it, Andrea Hubbard from Hub & Company, thank you so much for coming on and telling us what you know. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Okay, so let's ramble on here. We had such a nice long interview on Clubhouse. There's not going to be much of the quick trip after party, but we are going to get to some networking in just a minute. And speaking of networking, Idea Collective Night School is happening tomorrow night, and we are talking about networking with the one and only Lunch with Lori guy, Lori Rifkin. He's going to bring his presentation of supercharged networking to the Idea Collective. Learn the tips and tricks to supercharge your networking. Lori, I see that you're with us today. Thanks for coming by, pal. You want to give us a quick sneak preview of what we'll see tomorrow night in the Idea Collective?
Sure. I'm going to give the math and science behind Lunch with Lori and teach people how to build a networking persona, because a pitch isn't enough. You need a persona, because every networking situation is different and you need different networking personas for different situations. And we're gonna have some fun. There'll be some exercises, and I'll also explain how to combine all the things you do in networking into a program, which I'll call your networking marketing plan.
Very cool. Now, Idea Collective members, they get more, they get in free, and they can bring a guest or two, which is pretty cool. So don't forget to invite some guests to tomorrow night's night school with the one and only Lunch with Lori Rifkin. But if you want to attend and you're not an IC member, we're dropping the link to the chat link to the event inside the chat. We would love to have you there. Two other quick things to hit on. I'm looking for a few volunteers for the new Pat Miller show. Tomorrow, we're going to record another episode where we're doing free laser coaching on the air. And this new show is my initiative to help 1,000 small business owners in 2021. And if you would like a fresh perspective on something that you're facing, or maybe a quick solution to a challenge that you have in your business, hit patmillershow.com and sign up, and we would bring you on the show and then have you be a part of the program. Tomorrow at 1:00, we're going to tape another episode, and I would love to have you be a part of it. Last thing, big thanks to our big sponsor, Bank59. They're giving away a free year in the Idea Collective just for doing business with Bank59. If you need a great small business bank, Idea Collective is a gift that Bank59 can provide for you. That's a free year in the group. So if you want to learn more about that, visit bank59.com/Idea Collective, and we can hook you up with it. With that, a big thank you to Andrea Hubbard of Hub & Company, and of course, Jennifer Buchholz, who is producing the call. She's the ultimate connector and my business BFF. Also, thanks to Quick Trip and Serendipity Labs for sponsoring today. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. Thanks for tuning in to Idea Collective Live. We're going to hop off and do some Quick Trip after party networking, and then we got to go. We'll see you here next Monday, where we will welcome Dave Marlowe, one of the smartest guys I know. He's going to come on and talk about mindfulness in your small business in this space next Monday at 3. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.